Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This book is titled God-Centered Spirituality, a commentary on Du'a Abu Hamza Thumali. Author Javad Shomali. Editor Shahi Jafid. Table of Contents. Forward. Page 9. Chapter 1. Welcome to Du'a Abu Hamza. Page 15. This chapter has the following subtopics. Step 1. Reform versus revenge. Page 16. Step 2. The universe acts like a mirror. Page 21. Step 3. A shortcut for growth. Page 26. The value of knowledge. Page 27. Chapter summary. Page 30. Chapter 2. Knowledge in the heart. Page 33. This chapter has the following subtopics. 1. Direct knowledge versus indirect knowledge. Page 34. 2. Knowledge in the heart versus knowledge in the mind or on the tongue. Page 37. Chapter summary. Page 44. Chapter 3. The Traveler Within. Page 47. This chapter has the following subtopics. Imam Javad and Optical Illusions. Page 48. Tawḥīd, the Most Beautiful Reality. Page 53. God did not send us here empty-handed. Page 54. The Traveler. Page 54. Let's Help. Page 60. God is the source of all good. Page 63. The Best Prescription for Akhlaq. Page 65. Chapter summary. Page 66. Chapter 4. God is the Guide. Page 67. This chapter has the following subtopics. Finding God. Page 72. The Two Levels of Life. Page 73. God is all around you. Page 75. Shaitan has no impact on the muwahhid. Page 79. Chapter summary. Page 81. Chapter 5. The Most Precious. Page 83. This chapter has the following subtopics. Does God get angry? Page 87. We sin against ourselves. Page 89. Calculate your account. Page 90. Forgive yourself. Page 92. Forgetting the taste of life. Page 94. God is the source of joy. Page 97. Chapter summary. Page 98. Chapter 6. Migration towards God. Page 99. This chapter has the following subtopics. Alhamdulillah, the path to God. Page 104. Chapter summary. Page 109. Chapter 7. A Voiceless Heart. Page 111. This chapter has the following subtopics. Sins mute the heart. Page 115. Which sin? Page 116. Empty actions. Page 118. We have come to this world to know God. Page 119. Take your weakness to God. Page 121. Chapter summary. Page 122. Chapter 8. Filling in the gaps with hope. Page 123. This chapter has the following subtopics. Relying on hope. Page 124. God versus the people of the heaven. Page 126. Important point. Page 128. Chapter summary. Page 130. Chapter 9. Making mistakes honestly. Page 131. Imam Sajjad's solution. Page 135. Imam Sajjad versus some religious people. Page 136. Honest repentance. Page 139. Imam Sajjad versus Shaitan. Page 140. Chapter summary. Page 141. Chapter 10. Friend of the Lovers. Page 143. This chapter has the following subtopics. The Two Ways of Doing Good. Page 144. Dressing out of Love. Page 146. Finding God's Friendship. Page 147. Messengers of Love. Page 148. The Religion of Love. Page 151. The Art of Loving. Page 153. Chapter summary. Page 156. Chapter 11. The End of the Story. Page 159. This chapter has the following subtopics. Living with God. Page 164. Living on Our Own. Page 165. Chapter summary. Page 168. Chapter 12. God expects nothing from us. Page 169. This chapter has the following subtopics. Humanity's Track Record. Page 170. No Judgment with God. Page 171. 1. God knows us. page 172. 2. God does not give up on us, page 176. The Secret to Understanding Religion, page 178. Chapter Summary, page 182. Chapter 13, Return to Me, page 183. This chapter has the following subtopics. Your soul is greater than the world, page 187. Chapter Summary, page 190. Chapter 14, Talk to Me, page 193. This chapter has the following subtopics. Ilham versus Wahi, page 194. Ilham is God talking to us, page 197. Khashiyat, 197. Chapter Summary, page 199. Chapter 15, Your Most Precious Possession, page 201. This chapter has the following subtopics. Actions with no results, page 202. Where is your wheat, page 203. Where is your fat, page 204. Optimism in God, page 206. Don't let anyone take away your hope, page 208. Run to God, page 208. Trust Hope, page 209. Chapter Summary, page 215. Chapter 16, The Heavenly Gathering, page 217. This chapter has the following subtopics. Love for the Dunya, page 218. The Two Ways of Being in This World, page 219. The Theme Park, page 221. A Rapid Lateral Flow Test for the Dunya, page 223. Chapter Summary, page 226. Chapter 17, A Hopeful Heart, page 227. This chapter has the following subtopics. Going Through Life with Hope, page 228. Hope Factory, page 229. A Fickle Heart, page 231. Guidance Equals Hope, page 232. Chapter Summary, page 235. Chapter 18, You Raised Me, page 237. This chapter has the following subtopics. Imam Sajjad's Autobiography, page 238. Tawḥīd, page 240. The Two Benefits of Tawḥīd, page 245. The Great News, page 246. Chapter Summary, page 251. Chapter 19, page 253. This chapter has the following subtopics. The U-Turn, page 253. Book Summary, page 266. Bibliography, page 267. Forward. Like many others, I would regularly recite the various du'as that are recommended in our traditions. In the month of Ramadan, I would recite Du'a Abu Hamza. Nights of Qadr were for Du'a Joshan Kabir, and Thursday evenings were for Du'a Kamal. Sometimes these du'as would act as a reminder for me to focus on my religiosity, but all too often they just felt like a chore. Often I would look around when a du'a was being recited and see people flicking through their books to see how many pages were left. I did not judge them. Reciting page after page of a supplication in a language that is not your own can become very dull. In most cases, the translations were not particularly helpful either. Like many others, I came to look at du'as as items on a checklist. I would recite them without the slightest expectation that they would change my life or provide answers to the burning questions I had. Instead, I would read them just to get the promised reward or to avoid feeling guilty. However, this did not sit well with me. I could not accept doing something that I did not understand. I promised myself that I would only recite the du'a that I understood, and for those I did not, I would keep thinking about them till I unpacked the treasures that undoubtedly laid within them. I resolved that if I found no treasures, then I would stop reading them altogether. This was the start of a beautiful and unexpected journey. Instead of rushing to finish a du'a, I would reach each line with a question in mind. What is the point of this line? What is it trying to say, and how is it relevant to me? This simple shift in attitude led to a completely different experience. The first du'a I really experienced this with was Imam Sajjad's 15 whisper prayers. As I began to reflect on its lines in relation to my own life, I found not only my biggest questions echoed in the du'a, but their solutions too. I was dumbstruck. How could I have recited these same lines all these years and completely overlooked all of these gems? From a mundane chore, the Du'a now became a beautiful story that encapsulated all the different stages of the spiritual journey. I began to have similar experiences with other Du'as such as Munajat Shabaniya and Du'a Arafah. Previously, I had considered the latter a long Du'a to be recited once a year, only on the day of Arafah. Now it was becoming an important part of my life. I would find solutions to my biggest challenges in its line. It began to feel like an endless source of wisdom that I could delve deeper and deeper into. I spent more than 2 years not just reflecting on, but really living with Du'a Arafah, and it changed me. It helped me look at my life and see God. It enabled me to feel God's love during the most difficult days of my life, and it gave me answers to some of the toughest and deepest questions I had. Why are we here? And how do we find love in a world so full of suffering? It was around this time that a teacher of mine began a lecture series reflecting on Du'a Abu Hamza. It was during the month of Ramadan, and I was lecturing myself, but I knew I could not miss his talks. He would be live on Instagram just an hour before my talk, and I would watch him on my phone in the car as we were driving to the center where I was speaking. Don't worry, I wasn't using my mobile while driving. My amazing wife Zara was behind the wheel. From the beginning of the first session, I was blown away. All I could say was, wow, wow, wow. I could not have imagined that this much profanity was hidden in just the first line of the Du'a. This is not an exaggeration, as you will see in the upcoming chapters. It was as if in just one line, Imam Javad was putting my entire life's learning and theology and psychotherapy into perspective, and enabling me to clearly see the gaps in my knowledge. As the sessions went on, the discussions only got better, and I soon realized that just like Du'a Arafah, this Du'a was also going to become a great part of my life. In the next few months, I listened to those sessions multiple times and reflected on the lines of Du'a whenever I got the chance. It was more than simply beautiful, it was life-changing. I began to see that in the Du'a, Imam Javad was teaching a unique and pure method of spirituality that was not only the most God-centric version, but also by far and away the most efficient, and I hope to be able to demonstrate both of these aspects to you by the end of the book, or perhaps even sooner. As with any other time I came across something beautiful, my immediate thought was, I need to share this with others. God's love, as demonstrated in this Du'a, can save us from so many painful nights and help us to overcome so many of our addictions. It can help so many beautiful souls find a shortcut on their journey towards God. Together with Dr. Haidarpur, my mother, and one of my first teachers, and my wife Zahra, I decided to share those gems with you in the form of this book which you now hold. The basis of the book is the Du'a of Imam Javad, and most of the reflections are those shared by my teacher. However, we have not just translated his thoughts and ideas into English. We have tried to live them by bringing the Du'a's teachings into every aspect of our lives, and then share our experiences. My teacher once told me, only share with others the truth that you have seen in your own life. This is what we have tried to do. Everything in this book has been incorporated into our lives. It has changed us profoundly, and hopefully you too will be able to live the Du'a and grow through its teachings. The praise for any beauty in this book is due to God, who has gifted us these gems and through his beautiful vessels such as Imam Javad and then my teacher. Any shortcomings you find in the book can safely and confidently be attributed to me. The book may have many inadequacies, but one thing cannot be denied. It was written with love. Javad Shomali, February 2023. Chapter 1. Welcome to Du'a Abu Hamza. There are some lectures or books that give us new information about religion, which we receive and use to fill the gaps in our understanding. It is like our understanding of religion is an incomplete jigsaw puzzle, and every new lecture or book provides us with some of the missing pieces. However, every now and then, we come across an idea that is so revolutionary, it goes beyond just giving us a few of the missing pieces. Instead, it makes us understand that the whole thing needs to change. By helping us realize that we're actually looking at the puzzle wrongly, it creates a paradigm shift in our worldview and entirely changes the way we look at religion. Du'a Abu Hamza is just like that. If you open your heart to the Du'a, it has the power to change the way you live your life forever. Imam Javad invites you to look at God, yourself, and the relationship between you very differently. Many aspects of religion that may not have fully made sense to you will now fall into place. You will finally see how magical and powerful religion can be when it is understood the way it was intended. The key to all of this lies within the first line of the dua. If we understand the first line, then the rest of the dua will follow. If not, then just like all the other times, we may read it but not gain very much from it. O Allah, do not educate me through your punishment. There is a very fair chance that you just read the translation above and are quite puzzled about what it means. You are not alone. This is a common sentiment. There is no need to worry. We are going to spend the entirety of this chapter discussing this one line, as it plays an important role in understanding the rest of the dua. We will discuss the phrase from 3 different angles, and by the end, you will see how it is a life-changing phrase. Step 1. Reform versus revenge. A very important word the Imam uses here is uquba, which refers to the outcome or the effect of actions. When we act in the world, our actions lead to certain outcomes and results. These are considered the uquba of our actions. This is why uquba is sometimes translated as punishment, because bad actions naturally lead to bad consequences, which can be considered a punishment of sorts. The Imam ﷺ asked God not to educate him through uquba. The first lesson we can take here is derived from the link between the words uquba and tadib, educating. Imam ﷺ explains that punishment has purpose and that it is to help us learn. Some people mistakenly believe that if God punishes, it is because he is upset. For example, I have done something to offend God, and now he desires to punish me in revenge. However, Imam Javad teaches us that anyone who thinks that God holds grudges against his creation is mistaken. Hatred or holding grudges are undesirable qualities even for human beings, let alone for the creator of the universe. An important point we need to remember about God is this be: nothing bad can be attributed to him. It is important to bear this in mind when we are trying to conceptualize him, or in this case, his wrath. God's anger is nothing like human anger, in the same way that when we say God hears, it does not mean that he has ears like we do. God does not have a body, brain, or nervous system. So what does it mean when we say that he hears? Think of the outcome of hearing. When we hear a voice with our ears and then analyze it with our brains, the outcome is that we become aware of the information it conveys. The outcome of hearing is becoming aware of information. God is aware of all information without needing to have a physical ear. God's hearing is clearly very different to ours. In the same way, God's anger is also very different to ours. God's anger does not mean that he is full of rage or that he has a heart that is now pounding faster. The end result, though, is similar. The consequence and result of our anger is that the person we're angry with will lose out on our company and be deprived of our help. They are left to fend for themselves. God's wrath, too, means that a person will be left to their own devices. God's support will be removed, and they will be left alone. As a result of our actions, we can lose God's support and be left to ourselves. Of course, this leads to worry and fear, as we clearly do not have the strength or resources to take care of ourselves. What Imam Javad is teaching us is that even when this happens, there is a beautiful reason behind it. It is not like God has tired of us or has given up on us. Not at all. In fact, the opposite is true. Imam says the purpose behind this separation is to jolt us into waking up and learning a lesson. Imagine you have a friend who has picked up a harmful habit. You try to talk them out of it, but they reject your help. They continue with this bad habit, but when they run into trouble, as a result, they come to you for help. You assist them, and again implore them to stop. However, as soon as they are out of trouble, they fall back into the same bad habit. At some point, you might conclude that your help is enabling them to harm themselves more. Your support is allowing the harm to continue. Out of concern for them, you stop your help and tell them either they stop the habit or they are on their own. When they continue, you follow through on your threat and remove your support, hoping that the next time they're in trouble and find that there is no help, they will finally wake up and stop the wrong habit for good. Even when you remove your support, you do so only with your best interest of your friend in mind. Imam Javad is teaching us that God's wrath and punishment work in the same way. God removes his help so that we face the result of our actions, learn a lesson, and distance ourselves from them. Therefore, it is not an act of revenge by God, but rather as an act of mercy. The fact that even God's wrath is out of his mercy is explicitly confirmed by Imam in a line from another dua, where he has addressed God as follows: O the one whose mercy precedes his wrath. Therefore, punishment is not a pain inflicted upon us by God. Rather, punishment is being left alone with the results and consequences of our actions. Unfortunately, we may have been led to believe that hell is a place where God sends his angels to inflict pain upon people. However, the Quran explains that such a vision of hell is wrong. Hell is actually seeing our own evil actions. And whoever has done an Adam's way of evil will see it. Quran, chapter 99, verse 8. In other words, one gets to face their act, get a good look at it, understand the bad within, and as a result undergo an inner change, such that they will really begin to dislike the bad act and distance themselves from it. Imagine if your dentist tells you to brush your teeth regularly to avoid cavities. If you ignore the dentist's advice, he will not come to your house in the middle of the night and create cavities in your teeth. Rather, the direct result of eating sugar and then not brushing properly is the decay of your teeth. Similarly, the Quran says that hell is not a place in which God inflicts pain upon us. Rather, our own bad actions will be manifest for good reason. So we see that our bad actions are harming us, and so we stop them. This is the nature and function of Jahannam. It is not a place of punishment and revenge. Rather, it is one of growth, where one gets the opportunity to distance themselves from their bad qualities and actions and grow as a result. Therefore, wherever you hear or read about uqubat or adhab, know that the function is growth and education, not retaliation. Step 2. The universe acts like a mirror. The universe, both in this world and the next, acts like a mirror. The purpose of a mirror is for us to look at ourselves and become aware of anything that needs to be fixed. I may have some food on my face, and the mirror enables me to see it so that I can remove it. The world is also designed in a similar way. For example, if I do not treat my family members well, they may become cold and distant towards me. If I am not too distracted but instead take note of this, it could be a great opportunity and a wake-up call for me. Their coldness towards me acts as a mirror in which I can see my bad behavior. It enables me to realize that I may have been treating them poorly and try to change my behavior. This mirror-like feature of the universe is not limited to our bad actions. We also see the results of our good actions. And whoever does an atom's weight of good shall see it. Quran, chapter 99, verse 7. The university degrees we have are an outcome of our studies, our fitness a result of our exercising, and so on. If you buy a house after years of hard work and saving, when you look at the house, you see a reflection of all your efforts. Imam Sajjad is showing us that this world acts like a mirror. This gives a whole new dimension to our lives. So much in our lives is reflecting our own qualities back to us. How happy or not my friends are to see me could be a reflection of how I treat them. If my children enjoy being around me, it could mean that the time I invested in them is paying off and I should continue in the same vein. On the other hand, if I see that my family are gradually becoming colder and the discussions at the dinner table are becoming less personal and more routine, it could mean that there is something wrong I am doing. If we do not recognize this, we miss out on a great resource of self-development. This world keeps sending us feedback to grow, but we ignore, or worse, reject it. Imagine a family in which the mother and children feel uneasy around the father. They try to communicate with them that his behavior is making it difficult for them to feel close to him. If he appreciates the feedback from the universe and uses it to improve as husband and father, his family will begin to enjoy his presence more and the environment at home will become warm and friendly again, which would be good for him as well. However, the father may have a different attitude towards the feedback. Instead of accepting he has shortcomings, he may think that his children are being rude to even suggest that he is wrong. This is the equivalent of getting annoyed at the mirror when it shows a blemish on our face. If he opts for his approach and refuses to see the truth, his behavior will continue to push his family away, and in a few years, they may live in the same house, but as strangers. As you can see, a picture is beginning to emerge. What really matters to God is our growth. He wants us to become the best version of ourselves by becoming more beautiful in our traits and actions, because that way we will enjoy our lives more. In the example above, who would benefit from the father improving his personality? Of course, his family would benefit, but more than anyone, he himself would reap the rewards. Instead of being a father who is feared, he can be one who is loved. That love is what God wants for him and for all of us. Therefore, this world is designed to reflect both our good and bad actions and character traits to us. The good, so we strengthen them, and the bad, so we start to improve them. This is also generally how society works. Good behavior is reinforced with rewards and bad behavior is penalized. If you study hard, you'll get a degree. If you speed hard, a penalty charge. Even as parents, when we promise our children a treat if they do their homework, we are doing the same thing. The key difference is that in the universe, the actions themselves create the consequences, whereas at home or in society, we cannot always wait for the natural consequences of actions, so we impose arbitrary consequences ourselves. For example, if your child does not study for an exam, it may take him a few months or even a few years to face the natural consequences of not taking his studies seriously. By then, it may be too late to change things, and so you bring those consequences forward by threatening to take his PlayStation away if he does not study. Conversely, you may bring the reward of studying forward. Getting a degree in 10 years' time may not matter to him much now, and so you tell him that if he studies this week, you will buy him a bicycle. A lot of religious education also follows this method. People are told to pray so that they get a reward, and told not to perform certain other actions for fear of punishment. However, there are several disadvantages to this method. In many cases, by the time a person sees the consequences of their actions and learns the lesson, too much damage has already been caused to them and those around them. Imagine a person who understands the value of loyalty and family only after being unfaithful to their spouse and seeing their family disintegrate in front of them. As a relationship fails and their children become disappointed, this person may get the chance to see the consequences of their actions and realize how much their family meant to them and how terrible cheating was. Of course, it's great that they learned the lesson, but only after so much suffering. Another example is that of a person who only realizes how much their parents meant to them after they have passed. This is one I have personally seen many times. I have lost count of the number of people who have told me that they wish they could go back in time and visit their parents more, or at least call them more regularly. Of course, they have now learned the lesson, but like the previous example, it would have been much easier if they had learned this lesson before reaching the stage. This method of learning takes too long. Moreover, we do not have just one shortcoming. Each one of us has many things we need to learn, and if it takes a few years for each quality or behavior, this long journey may not finish it in our lifetime. Even if family or society try to speed the process up by imposing secondary consequences on us, another problem arises. Imagine a parent who does not want their child to have to wait to see the consequences of not praying, and so imposes a reward/punishment system. For example, if you do not pray, dad will be disappointed in you. Consequence, disappointing parents. In this case, the child may quickly learn to pray, but the education has not really happened. The child is not convinced about the beauty of prayer. They have only been forced or emotionally manipulated into performing it. This is not too different to a parrot being rewarded with sunflower seeds for saying a few phrases in Arabic. It means nothing to them. It does not show that their soul is growing. Even if this child performs the physical act of prayer, they are not really praying. Additionally, it is not healthy for the child to feel the love of their parents is dependent upon them performing this action. Now, let's go back to the phrase which Imam Sajjad started this dua. O Allah, do not teach me through your punishment. Imam is informing us that there is another way to improve and grow. We do not need to wait until we make a mistake to face the consequences, and then learn from it. There is another way of growth in which knowledge of the right way comes to us even before our actions. Step 3. A shortcut for growth. In this dua, Imam Sajjad teaches us that there is another way for growth, where we no longer need to walk blindly in the world, waiting until we hit a wall to learn that our direction was wrong. There is no need to act and then learn from our mistakes, or even to be threatened with punishments before changing our behavior. Rather, we can utilize the light of knowledge and peer directly into our hearts, thus removing the need for punishment and reward as a means of education. This is the most essential point of the dua and the foundation of this whole book. All our lives, we have tried to act first and then learn through the consequences of our actions. But Imam Sajjad is showing us that there is actually another way. First, we gain knowledge, and then we act. One of the main barriers we face when we adopt Imam Sajjad method of growth is all the years of action-oriented education we have received. For example, at special times of the year, such as the nights of Qadr, we are given a list of actions, amal, to perform in order to grow spiritually. It is always about the action. Read this dua, perform these prayers. Even wider culture suffers from this action-oriented attitude. There are so many how-to videos and books explaining which 5 things to do in order to solve problem X. Naturally then, when we want to achieve anything in life, in this case growing spiritually, our minds immediately go to what actions we might need to do. Instead, Imam Sajjad is teaching us that there is a much faster way, and in order to get there, we need to realize that there is something much more important than actions. Knowledge. The value of knowledge. The same action can have different levels of value. Before talking about this in the context of spirituality, let us reflect on an example from our daily lives. Think about the act of hugging. The same act can have greatly different levels. The level encapsulated in the hugs we give to our children and make them very different to the hug we may give a friend. The amount of feeling behind a hug can vary greatly. Sometimes we might even receive a hug from a person who does not love us. Perhaps they might even resent us. This hug will have no value for us, so the value of a hug is equal to the amount of love behind it. The same is true when it comes to religion. The value of an act depends on the understanding and knowledge behind it. The value of salah is not just in its physical actions, but in the understanding of the person who performs it. The value of fasting does not lie in the act alone, but rather in the understanding and faith of the one who fasts. It is true that the form of these deeds is good regardless, but their main value in human development comes from the level of knowledge of the person who performs them. There is a very beautiful verse in the Quran about what gives value to an action. And the weighing of deeds that day will be the truth. Quran, chapter 7, verse 8. The Quran says that the value of deeds in the eyes of God is based on how much truth there is in them. Our deeds are like stones in a gold mine. In the same way that the worth of gold ore is dependent on the amount of gold it contains, our good deeds are only as worthy as the amount of truth in them. Someone may possess a large number of stones with a very small amount of gold in them. Similarly, we may have many actions but with little truth in them. Actions are valued by the knowledge in them, not simply by their quantity. If we are not aware of this, we may perform a lot of actions but gain very little benefit from them. We are immersed in the ocean of God's mercy and yet remain thirsty. To him ascends pure knowledge, and righteous work raises it. Quran, chapter 35, verse 10. There has to be pure knowledge that is then lifted through righteous deeds. If there is no pure knowledge, there is nothing for the righteous deeds to erase. Any actions bereft of knowledge are null and void. Imagine a person who makes 50 deliveries in the space of a day, but is told at night that his work deserves no salary. He is puzzled. But I took 50 bags to people. He is then told, you forgot to put anything in the bags. They were entirely empty. The same is true with regards to our actions. The Quran says they are like a container that must be filled with knowledge. The Prophet ﷺ once gave some sage advice to Imam Ali Islam that we too can benefit from. O Ali, if you see God's people seeking to get closer to him through good actions, you should approach him with intellect. If you do that, you will surpass them all. This is a very important piece of advice about the significance of aql and understanding in religion. This is no ordinary hadith in which the audience of the Prophet ﷺ is an ordinary individual trying to learn. The audience here is Imam Ali al-Islam, and so the message is a very special one, with both parties at the peak of piety and spirituality. The Prophet ﷺ emphasizes the priority of understanding over actions. Of course, this is not to undermine actions. Both Imam Ali al-Islam and the Prophet ﷺ were pioneers in performing good deeds too. However, the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us that as long as our understanding and knowledge is incorrect, our actions will never be complete. You may perhaps be wondering what type of knowledge or understanding the Prophet is talking about. That is exactly what we will discuss in the next chapters. Read on. For now, the key message is that if you want to grow quicker, you need to prioritize proper knowledge over faithful action. It does not mean that we should stop acting until we have proper knowledge. This we cannot afford to do. However, it is very important to realize that it is knowledge that gives value to actions, and thus it is crucial that we gain knowledge as soon as possible. The greater the knowledge, the more valuable the action. Chapter Summary. In this chapter, we learn from Imam Sajjad al-Islam that there are 2 methods of growth in education. A. The reward and punishment method. This way involves acting fast, facing the consequences of our actions, and then learning from them. If they are good, we continue doing the same action, and if the consequences are unpleasant, we amend our behavior accordingly. This is how many parents try to educate their children, by tempting or threatening them with consequences. Example, if you do not study, you will fail in life. If you study, you will succeed. Imam Javad al-Islam tells us that the whole universe is designed in the same way, reflecting our actions and qualities back to us. Through the events that happen to us and the reactions of those around us, we receive feedback on our actions and qualities. A very important point to bear in mind is that the negative consequences that befall us are in no way due to God's anger or desire for revenge, but rather out of His love, in the same way that parents who care about the future of their children want to help them become the best versions of themselves. The purpose of this method is so that we can learn and grow. It is not just our bad actions that we encounter. The universe reflects our good actions more than it does our bad. However, Imam Javad al-Islam informs us that despite this method being there, God intended another way for insan to grow. This method is similar to the way animals are treated. If a handler wants to train their animals to act in a certain way, they wait for them to show the desired behavior and then reward them. Although we have many similarities with animals, we are unique in that God has blown into insan from His divine spirit. We are not meant to act and then wait to see if there is a result, reward, or punishment. To grow in a way truly worthy of a human being, rather than using the same basic system that animals use, there is a better method. In this Du'a, Imam Javad al-Islam presents us with this new method. B. The painless path. Here we first acquire the light of faith, of knowledge and understanding, and then act with the light. There is a world of difference between a person who grows in this way and a person who grows only as a result of their actions, not to mention this way is much faster. In this method, the focus is on understanding over action. Actions are considered empty containers that are only as valuable as the knowledge that inspires them. We are told that as insan, we can gain knowledge directly into our hearts prior to any action, and that this knowledge will then guide our actions and improve our characters. The question then becomes, what is this knowledge and how can we gain it? This is what we will, God willing, discuss in the next few chapters.